You guys have voted, and now it is time to reveal the cast for the 27th season of Sims 4 Survivor, which I am going to name Sims 4 Survivor Evergreen Harbor. We're gonna be playing in Evergreen Harbor. Figured I'd just go with a world name because I feel like our other choices would have been like audience choice or whatever, and that, I don't know, that kind of just doesn't sound that good to me. So Evergreen Harbor it is. I kind of struggled with how I want to do this because we have 245 players that we have to go through. So I think I'm just gonna lightning round go through everybody who had a negative vote or had negative points by the end of the poll. And we can just like get rid of them very quickly. I can maybe discuss them a little bit here and there. But for the most part, we're just gonna bam, 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 get through it. And we can get into the actual meat of the video later on and sort of see who is on the board for who people want to see come back. If you hear some like rain outside or like wind, there is kind of a storm going on, so I apologize for that, but it is what it is. I have to record this today because I don't have any time outside of today, and I want to get this done because I know you guys want to see who made the cast and who did not. A few stats first though. We did have 13 voters, so that is 2 more than our second chances ballot, which is fun. I was of course one of those voters once again, but I limited myself to only voting for like the plus or minus 1 options because I didn't want to put my thumb on the scale too much. But anyway, let's just go into the results of the poll here. And we're going to be going in ascending order, so we will start from the bottom and go up. So way at the bottom in 245th place, I guess. I'm not going to say the placement every single time, but it will be showing on screen. So you guys can keep tabs of that if you want to. But with negative 23 points, we have Shafira Kayaputri. Makes sense that she would be at the bottom. She is one of our quitters, which I guess spoilers, the quitters, none of them did particularly well, which does make a lot of sense. Following Shafira, we have, with negative 20 points, Anaya Jang, which is kind of funny that she is the second lowest. I think her main sin is just being kind of boring. She wasn't all that interesting on Chestnut Ridge. Then she returned for Luck of the Draw, was also boring there. So yeah, I don't think anybody's clamoring for Anaya Jang return anytime soon. Following Anaya, we have Rami Watson with negative 18 votes. And following Rami, we have with negative 17 points, Nyan Spectre, another quitter. Then we have with negative 16 points, Ted Roswell. And then we have a whole bunch of people who ended up having negative 15 points. Ulrike Faust, Roberto Crinkletop, Colin Robertson, Hugo Villarreal, Temperance, Angelo Moreland, and Jing Fen. So kind of interesting to see Angelo land solo here. I mean, he is one of our winners, but I guess we just had all winners, so a little bit of a spoiler. You guys were not really interested in seeing most of the winners return. And I believe most of them are in the negative, but some of them are not. Next up with negative 14 points, we have Bjorn Bjergsen, Sophia Bjergsen, Arnessa Thiep, Maika Haas, Jay Huntington III, Faiz Jalil, and Noah Kane. It's a lot of Strangerville here. We have both of the Bjergsens. We'll see where Clara lands on this list, I guess. And then with negative 13 points, we have Naoki Ito, Bernice Robles, Umber Grove, Sergio Romeo, Yasmin Tinker, Knox Greenberg, Liliana Kealoha, and Sachiko Nishidake. So that's a lot of early outs here. With negative 12 points, we have Christopher Volkov, Ukapanipo Hakakia, Malcolm Landgrab, Ilya Cruz, Stephen Pon, Gemma Charm, and Leah Huada. And then with negative 11 votes, we have Don Guzman, Mateo Markowick, Gunther Munch, Christopher Michelson, Lucha Harjo, Aquasong, Grace Anansi, and Meredith Roswell. And finally, for our negative 10s, we have everybody with negative 10 points. Kayla Fleming, Danny Davila, Victor Fang, Supriya Delgado, and Owen Sage. So those are all our lowest placing players. We have a lot of early outs, a lot of people who competed recently, which was a bit of a trend. It seems like most people were not really interested in seeing people return who just returned not too long ago, which I guess makes a lot of sense. But we'll move on. With negative 9 votes, we have Alika Kahananui, Moira Fires, Dolly Ruano, and Chan Lin. With negative 8 votes, we have a whole bunch of people. We have Savannah Price, Nancy Brock, Jesse Crack, Yuki Bear, Angela Pleasant, Akram Elderberry, Wolfgang Wilder, Felix Sided, T. Lin, Dustin Broke, Faye Harris, Sydney Price, Akade Aether, Yena Assad, Kevin Puri, Bob Pancakes, Tarun Asaki, and Wolfgang Munch. So kind of funny to see Savannah be this high on the list for being one of the quitters, whereas Shafira and Nyan were like way on the bottom. But I guess people were fine with her coming back. With -7 points, we have Michael Bell, Cecilia King, Kalamainu Iona, Serena Bamra, Thomas Collette, Lou Howell, Thomas Watson, Mila Munch, and Dominic Soto. And with -6 points, we have Cameron Fletcher, Lucia Markowick, Camille Soto, Brent Tecking, Panya Lee, Kazim Buma, Thomas Jabari, Mickey Yarmolino, and Rita Kumbez. So here you can see we are starting to see the winners pop up. And I believe Kazim, Thomas, and Mickey all had the exact same vote distribution, which is very funny to me. But we'll move on. -5 points, we have Johnny Sest, Liberty Lee, Vanessa Jung, Marcus Flex, Alan Saja, Sanja Lee, Summer Holiday, Izzy Fabulous, Alex Moyer, Brittany Cho, and Penny Passas. So 3 more winners here. With -4 points, we have Baby Ariel, Leslie Holland, Jules Rico, Vanessa Kayaputri, Ninpur Ma, Ava Harjo, and Blossom Greenberg. And we're almost there. Hang in there. With -3 points, we have Travis Scott, Gita Risoya, Shigeru Nishidake, Simeon Silversweater, Holly Alto, Simbad, Marcel Price, Sulika Isadi, Luz Lopez, Rodlan Gomez, Vlad, Jas McPherce, Clara Bjergsen, and Esther Gomez. The first newbie player, or player that has not competed yet, on the board here with -3 votes. So that should tell you something. The people that have not competed, there were a lot of people that were more than okay with seeing them compete here on Sims 4 Survivor. With -2 points, we have Jen Akiyama, Elphaba, Lane Coffin, Bako Jang, Julie Brock, Juniper Grove, Rohan Elderberry, Bella Goth, Aurelia Robles, Leanne Saja, Layla Ann, and Gretchen Wolf. 3 more newbie players. I believe these are some of our highest ranking winners here. Rohan and Bella, and Juniper also. Next up, we have -1 point. So there we have Daryl Charm, Janae Price, Lily Shu, Haru Matsuda, Yoltik Siko Tenkado. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sorry, Yoltik. Ignacio Robles, Mika Ojo, and Edith. And we will finish off this lightning round with everybody who evened out at 0 points. Here we have Luna Villarreal, Pollination Technician number 9 Smith, Juliana Sage, Mary Greenberg, Eric Lewis, Salmira Gomez, Valon Vares, Caleb Vitor, Eliza Pancakes, Valentina Nadir, and Carmen Ortega. So that is everybody who was in the negative, as well as everybody who had 0 points. That was a quick little lightning round. But that leaves us with 95 Sims here on the board, all of which were in the positives and were contenders to make it onto the season. And now I'm gonna do a little bit more of a knockout style format, I guess. So we have all 95 players here on your screen, and we will one by one get rid of them so you can visually see who is going out. But I guess we will start with everybody who only got 1 point. Those players were Oleana Nagata, Derek McMillan, Judith Ward, Jacob Wolkoff, Dancel Rivera, Mitchell Kalani, and Lady Raver Dancer Goff. With only 2 points, we have Kyle Kyleson, Eleanor Sullivan, Dwayne Talla, and Celine Lopez. And then with only 3 points, we have Alice Martin, Paka Uha, Greg, Lavina Chopra, Mortimer Goff, Dominic Fires, and Dina Caliente. Then I'm gonna end this portion with everybody who only got 4 votes. We have Morgan Ember, Jeffrey Landgrab, Lilith Pleasant, Aziz Nadir, Carlos Lopez, Mimsy, Layla Eilis, Octavia Moon, Jess Sigworth, Jeb Perez, Eleanor Elderberry, Monica Lopez, and Alice. See, some of these, like, newbie players, they are on the board, kinda. I mean, they're only getting 4 points here, but that's still a lot for, like, players that you guys have never met before. We are also down to only 2 winners at this point. Which I guess spoilers, I'm just gonna reveal it right now. There are not gonna be any returning winners on this season, which I think makes a lot of sense. I mean, I kind of tipped the scale a little bit against them when I announced in the cast video or the introduction to the poll that I would be giving them a boost to their stats. So I think people wanted mostly everybody to be on equal footing, which is also why I think most of these newbie players are not really getting cast. But I actually think that's fine, because I think I can probably scrounge up enough players for a newbie season once the new pack comes out. So maybe that can be season 28. We'll see. We'll see how many pre-made sims are going to be in that. But anyway, let's reduce the board a little bit. We are now left with 64 players here. And we will get rid of everybody who only received 5 points. So in this camp, we have Rory Oaklaw, Lily Feng, Keala Hoapili, Simon Scott, Bernard, Alice Spencer Kim, Bua Bunma, Greta Laurent, Min Sung Lee, and Zoe Patel. Then we can take off everybody who only received 6 votes. Those were Darling Walsh, Arturo Lin, May Prescott, Sienna Grove, Ring Bear, Urban Price, Jasmine Dubita, and Sephora Gomez. 3 players received 7 points. Those are Molly Prescott, Vane the Boulder, and Dara Kam. Our final winner here, our highest ranked winner of this poll, Dara Kam, but unfortunately not making a return here. I think that kind of makes sense. I mean, she got kind of screwed over on all winners, so I feel like people were like wanting to see her play again, and then she didn't really get a chance to play on all winners. But everybody who got 8 points are Ian Moody, Aaron Bida, and of all people, Rahul Chopra somehow. I think it's so funny how much support Rahul got on this poll, because he was like a 3rd boot and then a 1st boot. So he kind of has done nothing on Sims 4 Survivor, but you guys were like, I don't care, bring him back. Love that for him. Anyway, everybody with 9 points, which are only 2 people, are Eloise Hiddlesticks and Paulo Roca. So with that, we are left with 38 players here on the board. 20 of these players will make the cast. I forgot to say that. We are going to be playing David versus Goliath, so I have settled on 20 players. Although I think it's fun to give more people a chance to return. Why not? Let's do a 20-person cast. But now that we are reaching the end here, I think we can go into descending order now and start locking some players on the cast here. By far, the number 1 on the board with 25 points is Brand Hacking. So congrats to him. He had so much support throughout. Everybody wants to see him return. So he is on the board, is locked in on the cast. It was kind of fun to watch his trajectory because he was not like number 1 for most of the poll. He was just kind of like lounging around in the 5th place spot or something. And then suddenly at the end, he got such a boost and started getting a lot of +3 points from the last few voters. And eventually he just ended up right at the top. So congrats to Brandt. He's on the cast. Another person who comes right behind him in 2nd place is the Flower Bunny with 24 points. Same thing with the Flower Bunny. Flower Bunny got so much support. I don't think they got a single negative vote, which I don't think anybody in the top like 10 probably received all that many negative votes, maybe a few. But yeah, Flower Bunny is locked in on the cast. And as the Flower Bunny is a non-gendered being, they can take up either a male or a female slot, but I have decided that they will be taking up a male spot on this cast. And that is because there are some women who did not make the cast who had a higher score than some of the men. It was a lot more competitive on the women's side of things. So I think it's only fair that we bump one man down who potentially would have made the cast over a woman who has a higher score than some of these men who are going to be making the cast. It's only fair. 3 players received 22 points. So they placed 3rd to 5th together. Those were Celeste Michelson, Marissa Tracy, and Cassandra Goff. There was so much support for Celeste. She was number 1 for most of the poll, and she would have been number 1 over Brand Hacking, but she ended up receiving a -3 votes by a late voter. So, yeah, her score got bumped down a little bit. 2 more players we can lock in with 21 points were Patchy the Strawman and Agnes Crumplebottom. I think it's so fun that Agnes made it onto the cast. I did not expect her to do that well in this poll, since on Battle of the Seasons, she wasn't that present. She was kind of an early boot. She didn't really do that much, but you guys love her. So let's see her compete for the 4th time. And funnily enough, speaking of a Crumplebottom, we can lock in another Crumplebottom because Agatha comes in right behind Agnes with 19 points. So we're gonna have both Crumplebottoms on the season. That's fun. Excited to see if they will end up on a tribe together eventually. I mean, I'm not gonna cast them on the same tribe, same starting tribe, but if they can get a good swap or if they can make the merge together, that would be interesting. All right, we've locked in 8 players here. I think we can take out everybody who only got 10 votes and remove them off the board. Those players are George Cahill, Kaori Nishidake, Nalani Mahiai, Bess Sterling, and Megumi Ito. Unfortunate for them, they were pretty close to making the cast, but today is not their day. They're off the board for now. All right, that was a bit of a detour, but let's log in some more players. We have, with 18 points, 4 people who are locked in on the cast. We have Minerva Charm, Dirk Dreamer, Akira Kipo, and Kim Goldblum. This is a very fun group of people here. I'm very happy that you guys picked some more obscure players to compete. Like Minerva, she competed on Brains vs. Brawn vs. Beauty, wasn't like a huge character, but you guys really want to see her come back. So I kind of love that. Also, Kim, she was definitely a big character on Chestnut Ridge, even though she was the merge boot. We have like Akira, who gets kind of screwed over at the merge on Occults vs. Normies, but was otherwise playing a good game. And then Dirk was the biggest surprise to me. I did not think you guys would want him to return here, but you guys really wanted him to come back, apparently. And I love that. I thought Dirk was a fun character on Stranger Will. He flips on his alliance. I mean, well-deserved spot for him. Let's lock in another player we have here with 17 points, Becca Clark. Becca, of course, last competed on Occults vs. Normies, where she had a pretty impressive game. So I think it makes sense that you guys would want to see her come back. She plays an idol on her ally. She tries to form a women's alliance. It doesn't work out for her. So I'm excited to see Becca come back. Then we have, with 16 points, also locked on this cast, Salim Benali, the most hated player on Copperdale. He somehow made it to the final 6, right? I don't really know how that happened, but yeah, he's now on this cast. Was a fun character on Copperdale. And another player we can lock in is Julia Wright with 15 points. I'm so excited to see Julia come back. She was a pretty large presence on Worldwide. She had an idol. She had to play that idol. She tried to mutiny over to the opposing tribe to like get in with them, and that didn't work out for her. I think she was a very fun player with a lot of potential that unfortunately didn't really work out. All right, now we are reaching the final few spots here. We have 5 more spots to go. And if I end up taking more players off the board, I will end up just revealing what the male cast is going to be. So let's just lock in the rest of the men on this season here. Next up, with 14 points, we have Guidry making it onto the cast. I am a little bit surprised that he made it here. He was on Mount Komorebi and didn't really impress me all that much, but you guys apparently disagreed and decided to bring him back. And we have another ghost making it onto this cast, because with 13 points, we have the Night Wraith making it onto the cast. Night Wraith, of course, the underdog of Occults vs. Normies, which, by the way, this is a very Occult vs. Normies heavy cast here. I guess you guys really like that season and have been wanting to see some of the players come back. Also, I don't think we've had that many returnees from Occult vs. Normies. I think it's only been like Rohan and Vlad and who else? Gemma returned. Denzel, of course. Bonehilda. But now we only have 2 more slots left for the men. And I can just reveal everybody who had 11 points. Because the 2 remaining men who made it onto this cast, they had 12 points. Everybody with 11 points did not make it onto this season. And those are Diego Lobo, Mark Eccleston, Kato Akiyama, Candy Bear, Sarah Scott, Don Lothario, Luna Shadows, And our last remaining newbie player here, Olive Spectre, just barely not making it onto the cast. But kind of fun that she had this much support, that she almost made it there despite being a newbie. So, you know, next time I do a newbie season, lock Olive in, she will be there. But now it's not her time. But that means the two last remaining men who are going to be making it onto the season are Makoa Kealoha and Thorn Bailey, of all people. Both had 12 points. They may make it onto the season here. Just barely scraping onto the season. I think it's so funny that Thorn Bailey made it. He's another one who has done really poorly on Sims 4 Survivor. He was on Battle of the Sexes, where he was the 3rd boot, became the 2nd boot of early outs. But for some reason, you guys said, bring Thorn back. So congrats to Thorn Bailey. He's on the cast. But that means we have to lock in the last remaining women. And this was a pretty tough showing here because all of these women ended up having 12 to 14 points, which is higher than both Makoa and Thorn. So it's kind of sad that they don't make it onto the season despite having a higher score than people that make it onto the season. But you gotta have an even playing field in terms of gender, you know, gender equality for all. But one person had 12 points along with Makoa and Thorn, and that was Kitty Lou. So Kitty Lou, unfortunately, not making it onto the season. And so we are left here with 5 women that have not been confirmed to make it onto the season or not. 2 of them had 14 points, and the other 3 had 13 points. But we only have 1 slot remaining. So I'm gonna have to make a decision between the 2 women who have 14 points. So I will reveal that those 2 women are Melika Hananui and Tia Bailey. So unfortunately for Katrina, Vivian, and Bonehilda, they are not making it onto this cast, but they were very close. We could have had Night Wraith and Bonehilda reunited, but that is not going to happen on this season. And I was kind of sad that Katrina and Vivian didn't make it. I was really rooting for them, but unfortunately, they just didn't get the points. But that leaves us with Melika Hananui and Tia Bailey here. Only 1 spot remaining. They both got 14 points. And I think I have to make the obvious choice here. We have to put Melee on the cast. I mean, she has not returned. Tia has been able to return. So we'll leave Tia off the cast for now. Although it is very funny to me that Tia Bailey, of all people, same as like Thorn, like Tia Bailey? Like, come on, guys. I guess she is kind of a meme character at this point. She is, it's funny. It's funny to get her this many points. But anyway, that is pretty much our cast. We have here the official cast in order of how many points they received. Brad Hacking, Flower Bunny, Celeste Michelson, Marissa Tracy, Cassandra Goth, Patchy the Strawman, Agnes Crumplebottom, Agatha Crumplebottom, Minerva Charm, Dirk Dreamer, Akira Kipo, Kim Goldblum, Becca Clark, Salim Benali, Julia Wright, Gidri, Melika Hananui, The Night Wraith, Makoa Kealoha, and finally, Thorn Bailey. So that's pretty much it for this video. I'm excited for this season. I think this is a very fun cast. We have a lot of occults versus normies, which, that's fine. We also have a lot of just random occults on this season. Like, we have Patchy, we have Gidri, we have Night Wraith, we have the Flower Bunny, who's not really an occult, but, you know, a little bit of an unorthodox player here. We also have Minerva. She is a spellcaster, of course. So this is technically like occults versus normies too. But, you know, it's not actually gonna be that. But I will record the season soonish. I'll try to get that out as soon as possible for you guys. I think we're in for a fun one. And if this is all you really want to hear from me today, now is your time to exit the video. But I was going to continue on just discussing a few things and talking about a few more stats here. So if you're interested in that, keep watching. But I also completely understand if you don't want to see that and want to just move on with your life. That's fine. So if that's you, thanks for watching. But I'm gonna move on to some stats here. First up, I averaged out the average score for every single season up to this point, as well as the newbies. And so I have here the average score for every season of Sims 4 Survivor, and I counted every season that every player has competed on. So like Thorn Bailey, for example, he competed on Early Outs, and he also competed on Battle of the Sexes, so his average is in both of those. So I went through like the entire cast instead of just like the cast they were listed on in the poll. That made a little bit more sense to me. But from this, we can kind of see which seasons are more popular than others. Although not really, because I think you're going to be shocked by the number one. Anyway, here we go. Here are the number of seasons in descending order. Ascending order? Descending order? I don't know. We're going to start at the bottom. Right at the bottom, we have Luck of the Draw with a negative 7.8 average. I'm not like super surprised by that. I think Luck of the Draw is not the best season in the world. And there is also a bit of a recurring theme for this poll in that you guys weren't really interested in seeing anybody return who just recently returned. So anybody in Era 3 had a bit of a disadvantage if they had returned for, I mean, for example, All-Stars 3 didn't do that well. Second Chances doesn't do that well. Luck of the Draw here at the bottom. And I also think like Angelo's score is really dragging it down. He has negative 15 points. We have Anaya with negative 20 points. We have Rami with negative 18 points. So yeah, that's going to be a very negative score here. Negative average here. We only have 3 players who actually have positive points, and that is Irvin, Minsung, and Jess. So those are the top 3 you guys want to see return from this season. But I also think like people still like Wolfgang. I think he just got a low score because he's competed 4 times now. So you guys don't really want to see him for the 5th time, at least not right away. So yeah. In 24th place, we have Early Outs with an average of negative 6.882. I'm not like super surprised by that either. I mean, Early Outs is not the highest caliber of gameplay. So I don't think people are really clamoring to see the Early Outs people come back. Though I guess Thorn Bailey does make it onto the cast. We've also seen like the most high-profile players of Early Outs return. Like we've had Malcolm come back. He kind of flopped on his return. Eric and Jenna kind of flopped on a return. And Lilith, like the most interesting player from Early Outs, just competed and was not eligible for the poll because she was on return to Willow Creek. So I think that like that score kind of attracts for me. And then in 23rd place, we have Second Chances with an average of negative 6.444. This is a little bit surprising to me. I thought Second Chances was a little bit more liked, but I guess that is also a returnee season from not too long ago. We did just see these people compete. I think the only person with a positive score from that was Judith with 1 point. That is kind of funny to me. And I guess, oh, actually Jeb also, because he had 4 points. But yeah, overall, like these newer returnee seasons, they did not do that well on this poll here. But next up, in 22nd place, we have Chestnut Ridge with a negative 5.769 points. We do actually have one person making it onto this cast from Chestnut Ridge, which was Kim. But I do think that in the case of Chestnut Ridge, we've kind of already brought back everybody who is significant on that season. So we're just kind of left with players that nobody really cares to see again. Also, some of the most prominent players from that season, like Lilith and Kenneth, they just competed on Return to Willow Creek. So they weren't eligible for the poll, which I think they would have dragged up the score a little bit had they not competed on Return to Willow Creek. Though to me, like the biggest snub on this season here in the poll is Aqua. You guys really did not want Aqua to come back. They had a negative 11 points. And I was a little bit surprised by that because they did really well on Chestnut Ridge. They almost win. Then they go on to get another shot on Second Chances where they make it pretty far again. So I thought there would be more support for Aqua, but apparently not. But then again, they did just compete on Second Chances and you guys weren't really interested in seeing people who competed there return here. So I guess that does make sense. In 21st place, we have All-Stars 3 with an average of negative 5.352. It's the same thing we've been talking about. This season just happened pretty recently, so makes sense that you guys wouldn't want to see anybody return from there yet. I will say though, I was a little bit surprised that Mitchell and Zoe got so many points. I mean, Mitchell only got 1 and Zoe got 5, so it's not like that much. But I did think they would get lower points because like Angelo had negative 15. And I kind of lump Angelo and Mitchell into the same camp because they are both winners that haven't returned after their win, whereas everybody else competed on all winners, of course. So yeah. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Hello, it is a different day because I forgot to talk about number 20 on the list. And number 20 is Glimmerbrook with an average of negative 4.714. Glimmerbrook, I would have actually thought would have had a bit of a higher score, to be honest, as we haven't had that many returning players from that season. But I guess we don't have actually anybody from Glimmerbrook entering this season or like making this cast. We do have Temperance with a negative 15. We have Elia with negative 12. And nobody with a really high score. The highest score here is a 5 with Bua and Greta having a 5. So yeah, I guess that kind of tracks. I feel like if Manuel had not competed on Return to Willow Creek, he might have made this cast, or at the very least performed pretty decently. But yeah, he was not on the poll. I mean, Ring Bear did pretty okay as well. He ends up, actually, he has the highest score here with a 6. That's kind of funny. But we've also had like Yasmin come back and Leah come back, and both of them didn't do that well on their returning seasons. So yeah, I guess that tracks. But in 19th place, we have Tartosa with an average of negative 3.412. I think it's sort of the same case with Tartosa and Chestnut Ridge in that we kind of brought back everybody who you have been wanting to see come back. I think also like the lowest placing players on Tartosa weren't all that interesting, and they all ended up with a pretty negative score, or pretty high negative score, I guess. But we do have some heavy hitters here. We have Marissa with 22 points. She makes it onto the cast. We have Kaori and George both having 10 points. That's pretty good. In 18th place, we have Granite Falls with an average of negative 2.889. Granite Falls to me is similar to Tartosa in the sense that it is a very top-heavy season. I think the people that make it far, those are like the biggest characters, and everybody else is kind of a dud. So I think it makes sense that this does not have the highest average score. I mean, the highest score for the poll was Alice with 5 points. And I guess Dara, she actually got 7 points. But yeah, she was on all winners ranked there. But we've had like Faye return. She was on second chances, and as I've mentioned, you guys were not interested in seeing the second chancers come back. So yeah, that kind of tracks. In 17th, we have Worldwide with an average of negative 2.875. I think like Chasm and Ava are probably dragging this score down. I also think Tina and Nina not being on the poll is dragging the score down a little bit because they just competed on Return to Willow Creek. We do, however, have the Flower Bunny making it onto the cast. We also have Julia and Makoa making it onto the cast. So there is some worldwide representation here. But like the bottom 3 people, Kayla, Naoki, and Arnessa, they all got pretty significant negative scores. So it all averages out to like a pretty negative score here. Although we are only in like the negative 3s here, so it's not like that low. In 16th place, we have Veterans versus Newbies with a negative 2.211 score, or average score. This I was a little bit surprised by. I did not think you guys were all that into Veterans versus Newbies, but I think it's a fun season, and we do have some people that almost made it to the cast. Nobody does make the cast, but we have like Sarah, we have Dawn, we have Tia, we have Luna, all in the 10s. And there's nobody in the negative 10s, I believe. Aside from maybe Panya? No, not even him. He's only at a negative 6. Oh, I guess like Meredith and Sachiko are in the negative 10s. That's fair. But a pretty good showing for Veterans versus Newbies here. Then in 15th place, we have Ravenwood with an average of negative 2.133. This I was a little bit surprised by. I thought Ravenwood would have had a little bit more support because we haven't had that many people return from Ravenwood. But I guess it is a pretty recent season, and we have also brought back some of the most prominent characters of that season. We do have Melee making it onto the cast. We do have like Carlos and Mimsy with pretty decent result here. But pretty much all of the pre-mergers aside from Carlos have a pretty abysmal score here. Maybe not like an abysmal score, but they don't have like a great score. Steven has like a negative 12. That's not great. And this I was very surprised by, because in 14th place, we have All Winners with an average of negative 1.7. I thought All Winners would get a much lower score. I thought people were not really interested in seeing the winners come back. But actually, they had a pretty decent average. They all ended up being somewhere in the middle. And they were a little bit contentious because some people really wanted them to come back. Some people really did not want them to come back. And there wasn't all that many people that that were in the middle there. So that was a little bit of an interesting score for me. I also think I kind of screwed them over, like by saying that they would be entering the game with better stats than everybody else if you voted them on. So I think you guys heard that and were like, well, then we don't really want them to come back. That's my bad, but also I was more than happy to not bring that back because we just had all winners. We can bring them back later. In 13th place, we have Generations with an average of negative 1.278. And we are, I think, reaching some of these like scores that are pretty even. The next three scores, they are all on pretty equal footing. Generations, I think that is another like top heavy cast. I think Generations also gets bogged down a little bit by having 3 winners on its cast. So that is dragging them down a little bit because Thomas, Rohan, and Kevin all got negative points here. And of course, like Shafira is definitely bringing down the average here by a long shot. So there has to be some people that are like bringing it up. I'm not really sure who. I mean, Kitty has 12 points. Jep has 4. Aurelia has negative points, actually. Yeah, Blossom, she has negative points. I'm not sure. I guess the all-star players, Molly and Bernard, are bringing it up because they both got a pretty decent score. But in 12th place, we have Battle of the Seasons with an average of negative 1.077. That I'm a little bit surprised by as well. I would have thought Battle of the Seasons would rank a little bit lower, but I think Agnes is pulling up that score. I also think like Zoe and Mitchell having a decent score is pulling them up. And also Elisa got an okay score, I think. Yeah, she has a 0, so she's not like killing the score all that much. Win the Boulder gets a 7, and there's nobody with like that negative of a score aside from Malcolm and Lucha, who have negative 12 and negative 11 respectively. So yeah, pretty decent showing for Battle of the Seasons. But in 11th, we have Copperdale with a negative 0.176 average. This I was a little bit surprised by because I would have thought this would have gotten a lower score, to be honest. But you guys were all interested in seeing everybody who made the merge on that season come back. Aside from like the people who already returned, I think. Vanessa has a negative. Octavia, of course, is in the negative, I think. Oh, no, she actually has a 4. Oh, okay, well. We also have like Vivian with 13 points. We have Mark with 11 and Salim making the cast with 16 points. And Paolo and Aaron both got 9 and 8 respectively. So that's pretty good. Rika is definitely dragging down the score. I think Lou Howell is dragging down the score. Yeah, he has a negative 7. We also have Janae with negative 1. But a pretty decent showing for Copperdale here. In 10th place, we have our first season. Base game versus expansion pack versus game pack with an average of 0.294. So here we are going into the positive scores here. Brandt is definitely doing a lot of heavy lifting for this season. But also Katrina, she had 13 points. But I think in terms of the first season, we've just brought back so many people from there. We only have 6 players that have not returned from base game versus expansion pack versus game pack. But overall, like, you guys were interested in seeing them come back. We love to see it. Season 1 still holds up. Good to know. But in 9th place, we have Mount Komorebi with an average of 0.769, which I'm also a little bit surprised by. I feel like Mount Komorebi was not super well liked. But we do have some people that are getting a pretty good score here. We have Megumi with 10. We have Gijui with 14. We have Agatha with 19. We have actually Layla with 4 points. That's pretty decent. And nobody has really all that bad of a score aside from Danny Davila with negative 10. Akram has negative 8. Dolly has negative 9. And who's returned from that season? Cletus, he was not on the poll. And of course, Layla has returned as well. And Minsung, right. He was one of the few on Luck of the Draw who got a positive point, or a positive total, I guess, with 5 points. So yeah, pretty good showing for Mount Komorebi. In 8th place, we have Battle of the Sexes with an average of 0.786. Which is a little bit surprising because everybody who was on the poll for that did not do all that well. We have negative 6 for Cameron. We have negative 8 for Savannah. Kyle does get 2 points, so that's pretty decent. But I guess Ian is pulling them up a little bit. He has a pretty decent score. He has 8. Brittany didn't get that bad of a score. She has negative 5, which I guess is pretty bad, but it's not that bad. And I think Thorn Bailey is pulling them up a little bit. We also have like Eric and Jenna, they didn't get the worst score ever. Eric is at a 0 and Jenna at a -2. And who competed on Battle of the Seasons for them? Eliza, right. And she doesn't have the worst score either. She is in the 0 as well. So, sure. Good for Battle of the Sexes. In 7th, we have Stranger Will with an average of 1.235. So here we are entering our more heavy hitter seasons, I guess. I'm a little bit surprised that Stranger Will has such a good showing here because Maike, Jay, and Faiz all have -14. So that should be dragging them down a lot here. But we do have like Marissa with 22. We have Dirk with 18. We have Diego with 11. Eloise with 9. We have our winner Alex with -5, which is not that bad. So pretty decent showing for Stranger Will here. In 6th place, we have Blood vs. Water with an average of 1.385. I definitely think Cassandra is doing a lot of heavy lifting here by pulling up the score to 22, or with her 22 points. Bess has 10, Rahul has 8. We also have Ava with a -4, that's not that bad. And we also have Morgan and Siobhan not in the mix here, since they were on Return to Willow Creek. I would have thought that like Malcolm with his -12 points would have dragged down the score a little bit more, but yeah, guess not. I guess we also have Dina with 3 points. I would have thought Dina would have gotten a lower score, to be honest, because I don't think she was all that interesting on either of her seasons. But apparently you guys don't mind, and we're interested in seeing her return, I guess. But in both 4th and 5th place, we have a tie here between Brains vs. Brown vs. Beauty and All Stars 2. Both had an average of 1.5. Brains vs. Brawn vs. Beauty, I definitely think Celeste is doing a lot here. Minerva also with her 18 points is pulling up the score. We also have like Arturo with 6 points. That's pretty good. We have Zoe with 5 pulling up the score. We also have Jess with 4. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's not a lot of negative points from people who competed on Brains vs. Brawn vs. Beauty, aside from like Sophia. So pretty solid score here. As for All-Stars 2, I feel like people are like ready to bring back some of these All-Stars players back. Because I think Return to Willow Creek sort of had people clamoring for the return of the more established players or established characters. So I think that makes a lot of sense that All-Stars 2 is here pretty high. Only Victor is really getting a pretty negative score here with -10. I guess we have Alan also with -5, which I think is just that Alan has competed a lot. So I don't think people are really interested in bringing him back. We have the winner, Denzel. He has 1 point, so that's not that bad. We also have Jacob with 1 point, who was on that season 2. And of course, Octavia with 4 points. And then Ava with -4. Oh, Rohan was also on that season. -2 for him. So all the winners who were on All-Stars 2, they all have a pretty decent score. They're all somewhere around that like 0 average, I guess. So yeah, pretty good for All-Stars 2. And Brains vs. Brown vs. Beauty. But in 3rd place, we have the new players with an average of 2. Which is kind of funny that they got an exactly 2. I think most people, when they were looking at the newbies, they were like, sure, why not? Throw them in there. But there was no like overwhelming negative response. I think there were a few players who were, a few voters who were like not really vibing with the new players, and maybe those were the people who wanted it to be a little bit more fair, which is why they didn't want them to come into the game. But we do see like Olive with an 11. There's nobody with a very negative score. The lowest score for the newbies is like Esther Gomez with -3, which is like nothing. Otherwise, we just have like -2s, -1, a 0. So yeah, I definitely think you guys are ready for another newbie season, as am I, but I just need the Sims. Then in 2nd place, which is a little bit surprising to me, I thought this would have been #1, seeing as there are so many people who made the cast from this season. We have Occults vs. Normies with an average of 4.588. And yeah, we have a lot of people on this cast who are from this season. We have Patchy, we have Akira, we have Becca, we have Night Wraith. I don't even know what is bringing them down. Or I guess not really bringing them down. I guess like Serena with a -7, Jilliana with a 0, Pollination Technician with a 0 as well. Rohan has a -2, which is not that bad actually. Yeah, pretty solid score. I did think they would be #1, but apparently not. Because our #1 is All-Stars. I was flabbergasted. I think All-Stars is like one of the least liked season of the show, but I think the season is just bad, but the cast is kind of iconic. Let's be real. Like it is a great cast. We have Bella, we have Caleb, we have Chasm, we have Agnes, Hiyoshi, Francine, Purple Molly Prescott, which yeah, I guess everybody who is on the All-Star, was on the All-Star portion of the ballot, they did have a positive vote. And we also have like Agnes making the cast with 21 points. And I guess All-Stars also is kind of helped by the fact that so many people from All-Star just competed, so they weren't on the ballot. So everybody who got a good score is pulling up the average by a really big margin, which I guess that's why All-Star is starting here in the first place. I also think the winners that come from this season didn't get that bad of a showing. We have like Caleb with no points. We have Bella with -2. Actually, Chasm got -6, so that's not great. Mickey also with -6. That's also not great. But we have like Marissa with 22 points. That's really pulling it up. We have Agnes with 21 points. That's really pulling it up. We also have like Molly with 7, Ian with 8, Arturo with 6, Bernard with 5. It's definitely something like you guys are interested in seeing the All-Star players return. So maybe we'll make that happen in a future season. But only Marissa is going to make it here, and Agnes, of course. So yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to ramble a little bit, talk about a few stats. I think it was fun. So yeah, anyway, that's gonna be the video today. I'll record the season whenever I get to it, which is gonna be this weekend, hopefully. I'm guessing maybe I can do it on Sunday. I don't know, it depends on how long it takes me to edit this. But yeah, that's it for me. See you then. I'm so excited. Bye.